Hello, everyone. My name is Joshua Burgeon. I'm the General Manager of the AWS Outpost business, and I'm here to talk to you today about AWS Outposts, cloud where you want it. Thank you for attending this session. We've got a jam-packed agenda here. Normally we would take 45 to 50 minutes to get through it, but we're going to power through it in 30 minutes with lots of exciting announcements and a recap of what we've done over the last year. So I hope you're going to stick with me all the way through. So first, to level set, if you've never seen an Outpost before, this is exactly what it looks like. It is a full height 42 rack unit size rack. It's 80 inches tall, 24 inches wide, 36 inches deep. If you were kind of watching that animation, what you saw is there's servers and there are redundant power supplies and networking, lots of security components that we build into the rack, taking from what we've learned from our 15 years of operating infrastructure in our regions. It's a really exciting offering, and we were really proud to announce it last year and go GA at reInvent. And of course, since then, we've continued to add lots of features and functionality to it. It is important to know that purchasing an Outpost is very similar to the experience that you get with other kind of hybrid offerings and hyper-converged hardware, where you can have a 3-year term that's very similar to a reserved instance or a savings plan from EC2, if you're familiar with that. We tried to keep the pricing pretty simple. So why did we build Outposts? Well, fundamentally, like everything we do at AWS, we were addressing some needs that we heard from customers. We heard that customers wanted to simplify their IT operations, especially on-prem. They wanted to get that same developer productivity boost that they get from the cloud services from AWS, but also on their premises. And they wanted to enable IT, developers, their finance people to accelerate at the same pace of innovation that you get in the cloud, no matter where they were operating their applications. And lastly, we wanted to deliver something that could deliver cloud services where people needed it. In some cases, there's data residency or compliance or other kind of regulatory reasons why you can't use the AWS regions. So that's fundamentally why we built Outposts. The other thing that customers told us, and that we like to believe that we delivered, is giving them the same experience, whether they're using an Outpost or they're using one of our services in the region. So that means the same level of reliability, the same security, and the same high-performance infrastructure that you get when you're using one of our 24 regions. They also wanted to get that same operational consistency. So that means for their developers or their DevOps people or IT folks or security, that they're using the same tooling, same service and APIs. They can have the same security posture. They can deploy in the same way using the same technology, whether that's from AWS or homegrown tools or third parties. And then ultimately, as I mentioned on the previous slide, you want to get that same pace of innovation. You want services delivered to you, not to be sitting there and having to install them yourselves or manage the patching or the firmware or the upgrades of the hardware, or kind of negotiating through different service providers for the hypervisor and the hardware and the software on top of it. So here at AWS, we set out to solve all those problems with Outposts. So with that out of the way, I wanted to talk to you for a few minutes here about what we've delivered in the past year. So the first thing, of course, is since Outpost is AWS infrastructure and services that you can deploy on your premises, it really matters where you can order an Outpost. So we launched last year with 25, 30 countries, and since then we've added the ability to order an Outpost in 17 more. You can kind of see them here on the screen, right? It's a pretty broad list of places you can order an Outpost, but if you don't see your country where you want to deploy an Outpost, maybe you operate a factory or a retail store, or you have a branch office somewhere, we really would like to hear from you. We're going to devote our roadmap in 2020 and 2021 in terms of the Outpost availability to the places where people tell us that they want the Outpost to be deployed. We've also increased the number of regions that you can hook an Outpost to. So to deliver all of this hybrid functionality, the consistent hybrid offering, your Outpost is connected to an availability zone in one of our public regions or our GovCloud regions. So we've added the ability to connect to 12 more regions. And so which region you pick is going to be dependent on your latency characteristics, your data residency requirements, and obviously where you deploy the Outposts. You can deploy in 51 countries, and as you can probably guess here from this chart, we don't have regions in all 51 countries. So in some cases, your Outpost will be connected to a region that's nearby in a neighboring country. But what I want you to take away from this slide is that as AWS continues to announce and deliver new regions, for example, these 5 regions you see here on the bottom of the slide, you're going to be able to connect the Outpost from day one to that region whenever that region is delivered. So these regions in Spain, Jakarta, Osaka, Switzerland, Hyderabad, when they come online in 2021, 2022, and 2023, from the day they come online, if you have an Outpost deployment that you want to connect to one of those regions, you will be able to. So that's kind of a promise that we're making here, and I think the team has done a really good job this year of kind of delivering on it. The other thing, of course, is the Outposts are not just hardware. They're not just a fundamental building block with a hypervisor and our Nitro system on them. In order to be able to use them and really get the most out of them, you have to use some of the services that we put on top of them. So we delivered them with basic support for EC2 and EBS and EMR, our Elastic MapReduce service. And since then, since the last year, we've delivered, I think, somewhere between 15 and 20 new services and incremental features. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time diving into what we've delivered in the last year in terms of innovation. The first is we've increased your ability to do local monitoring of the Outpost. Obviously, you can imagine that because the Outpost is connected to our regions, you get to use things like CloudWatch and CloudTrail to monitor them centrally from a single point of glass. But it's also important if you're doing operations, where there's a temporary disconnect, or you just want to monitor the local network operation and how it's connecting to your local area network. So we've delivered a bunch of functionality and APIs in that regard. We've also increased the number of certifications that the Outpost has. If you're familiar with AWS, you know that we have the widest number of accreditations and compliance certifications of any major cloud provider. It's over 50 from around the world. And Outpost is no exception. We're kind of catching up there. In the last little bit here, we've delivered SOC compliance, part 1, 2, and 3. And then we're also in process of delivering FedRAMP compliance. So there's many more bits of information you can find out about this. And again, as I mentioned earlier, please feel free to contact us if there's a security accreditation or a compliance regime that you are subject to and you'd like to be able to use Outpost. We have a large team and we are committed to meeting all of those. We've also increased the network performance. That's both in terms of the single NIC kind of throughput up to 2 gigabit per second, and then beyond that. And some of this is going to depend on the types of compute and EBS storage that you've purchased on your Outpost. But we're going to continue to make strides here because you can gang together multiple full rack Outposts to kind of form 1, 2, up to 16 to 96 racks of a single logical Outpost. So you're going to need that improved network performance. In addition to all of the geographical expansion over the last year in terms of additional countries and additional regions that you can connect your Outpost to, we've also turned the crank really hard to deliver a lot of incremental innovation in terms of features and services on the Outpost. Obviously, we have a lot to work with over 175 services in our AWS regions. And we're being really thoughtful about which ones we bring to the Outpost. We launched with EC2 and EBS, as well as EMR. And since then, we've really continued to expand things. First, I wanted to start with talking about some of the incremental feature work that we've done this past year based on customer demand. In terms of local monitoring, you now have the better ability to monitor what's going on in your local network, health metrics of the Outpost, and your VPC and your service, your gateway, kind of your connection to the region. Customers have told us it's pretty important for their local IT admins to be able to diagnose at a very detailed level what's going on between their Outpost and their WAN connection and their LAN connection. We're going to continue to do more in this regard. We're also hearing a lot of customers ask for more compliance certifications. AWS already has the broadest set of accreditations and compliance certifications of any cloud provider. And we're very carefully going through those and certifying Outposts so that you can use them in very specific use cases. For example, Outposts are HIPAA compliant and ISO compliant. Very recently, just the last week, we actually achieved SOC compliance, both Part 1, 2, and 3. And we have FedRAMP compliance for both medium and high FedRAMP workloads coming soon. If there's another compliance regime that you're subject to or an accreditation that you need from us, please reach out and we will research it and we will do what's necessary there. Of course, we're also hearing from customers who want improved network performance, from their Outposts. Over the last year, we increased the aggregate throughput of an Outpost, back to the region to over 100 gigabits per second, which is some pretty impressive performance. And that's important because you can actually gang together and bundle together these full rack Outposts. You can put up to 96 full rack Outposts together. So that's a lot of compute and a lot of storage locally. And you need to be able to either pull down a lot of data from the region or push up a lot of data, as the case might be. So those are the incremental features that we've delivered in the last year. The rest of our effort has really been focused on the additional services that we brought to the Outpost. So now I'm going to dive into those. More recently, we've just announced that we're going to be supporting the 6 series instances. So in our regions, we offer the C6G. These are Graviton-based instances, our ARM processors. We also offer the M and the R series. Those are now available to order on Outposts, and they'll be coming in 2021. So we're going to continue to do things like that, and you get the benefit of the fact that we built Outposts on some of the same hardware that we use in the region. We also launched, not that long ago, Amazon RDS on Outposts. This is our relational database service. It's a managed database for you that you can use right now for MySQL and Postgres databases. You can, of course, also self-manage databases on Outposts as you want. It's a bit of a whirlwind here. I got to stop to catch my breath. But we really do try to turn that crank pretty hard and keep delivering the Outpost innovation for you. And you're really benefiting from the fact that all the engineering work that went into our regions is, where possible, reusable on Outpost. So this is what we've delivered in the last year. Of course, you can kind of fast forward over the next year. And, if we were talking in 2021 at reInvent, we'd have a similar slide. Amazon is not going to slow down at any time. We would love to hear from you, again, as to what services and what features you'd like to see on Outpost. Please feel free to contact me or contact your AWS rep. So with that out of the way, these services are great. The hardware, I think, is super innovative. The Nitro system is fantastic. But, how are people using this and where are they using it and why? So to kind of step back a little bit, we think of Outposts as part of the story of delivering AWS where customers need it. So when you think about it, most customers have this continuum of applications, and not all customers have the exact same amount of applications in each part of this continuum, but most customers do have at least some applications in each piece. So, what you're seeing here on the screen right now is there's certain applications, web applications, enterprise applications, things that publicly face customers. They're already pretty easy to move to the cloud, and they're moving at a pretty rapid clip. Then there's a set of applications that could run in our public regions. They could run in the cloud, but there might be a data residency requirement or a compliance reason, or maybe just a cultural reason at your company where it's a little bit harder to run it in the cloud. There's not some fundamental technical reason why you can't do it, but there might have been a blocker because of location. And then over here at the other end of the spectrum, there are applications that they're pretty difficult to move to the cloud because they have to be co-located with end users or next to machinery or inside of a store. And as you can guess, we don't actually have regions that are in every location around the world. And in some cases, the latency issues or speed of light issues are actually the fundamental blocker to kind of running those applications in the cloud. So when we thought about this application continuum, kind of sparked on us that we should think about a cloud continuum too. So, over here on one side of the spectrum, you have our regions. I mentioned those earlier. We've got 24 of them around the world. We've announced 5 more than 77 availability zones with, I think, 12 or 13 more announced. That's quite a bit. Then here in the middle, what you think is that people say, hey, can you deploy AWS a little bit closer to me, right, in a city or in another state, or maybe connected to a 5G network. Maybe that's the new way I'm connecting. Maybe it's on my premises where I need a large Outpost installed. And then over here at the far end of the spectrum, you have what we would call the far edge, where you have IoT sensors. Maybe there are billions of them, kind of around the world, or the rugged edge, like a cruise ship or an oil rig. And so customers are saying, look, I have applications across the continuum, so I need cloud across the continuum. So in order to deliver that, of course, we have a continuum of offerings. I mentioned the regions. Right here in the middle, we have our outposts, which are also the fundamental building block for local zones and wavelength, which are AWS infrastructure deployments that are in metro areas and connected to 5G networks. And then over here at the far end, we have IoT and Greengrass and our free RTOS, robot operating system, as well as the ruggedized Snow family, the snowmobile, snow cone, and snowball edge devices. So really, AWS has expanded from kind of the original public region to kind of have something that serves the entire application continuum across anywhere where customers could need it. We're mostly here talking about Outposts today, but I think it's important to kind of see the entire context. We also would like to talk to you a little bit about our customer momentum, or put another way, how are customers actually using Outposts to achieve their business ends? How are they serving customers? And we've been really excited by the interest. It's been, in some ways, kind of off the charts, which means I think we did a good job getting the initial product out there. And that's part of why we've been able to turn the crank, is we get so much good feedback from customers about how they want to use Outposts, what services and features they need. So let's dive into a few of those here. So these are the use cases we're seeing emerge for Outposts. You can see it's quite a broad range, from real-time interactive applications where you have a visual effects artist doing animation, to data processing at the edge or in hospitals, SCADA systems, audio-video processing, even machine learning and artificial intelligence at the edge is really starting to emerge as a use case where people are saying, could you deliver the cloud to me? So more specifically here, what you can see is that we have a number of customer use cases that are being really well served by Outposts. And again, this is not a universal list. Hopefully you see something in this that resonates with you. So first here we have Philips. They're looking to accelerate the delivery of their healthcare services. And so now they can use the same infrastructure on-prem or in the cloud, and they can actually deploy not just kind of data lakes and machine learning training workloads in the cloud, but deploy next to sensitive equipment in a hospital or next to work that's going on in an academic medical research center. This allows them to serve, with cloud services, critical care, even using predictive analytics and doing things in real time, and of course meet all of the compliance regimes that are happening all around the world, where sometimes the data can't even leave this facility that it's in. So this is a really exciting and emerging use case. And before, they would have had to use a mixture of different third-party hardware and software and kind of cobble it together themselves. Now they can just standardize on AWS all around the world and in all the facilities. Next up here, we have a solution provider, WWT, Worldwide Technology, something like 6,000 employees around the world. What they're doing is they're standardizing on Outposts and actually building a lab to do proofs of concept for their customers in public sector, manufacturing, financial services, healthcare. This is a really broad set of use cases. So what Outposts allows them to do is serve all of those needs in a consistent way. Some of those needs are going to be served in regions. Some of them are going to be served on an Outpost deployed in an enterprise location or in a factory. And it brings it all together in such a way that they can actually deploy in their own data centers Outpost in a lab type environment. And then when the customers purchase their services through WWT, that Outpost can be deployed in the customer data center or a colocation facility. Another use case that's sort of near and dear to my heart is this one from Riot Games. I hope you're familiar with them. They make some really entertaining and awesome games that are just tearing up the charts. So this new game they delivered called Valorant, which is just one of the fastest downloaded games, and I think the history of gaming. The problem they had is that, our regions give them pretty broad reach, but what they wanted to do was give every player around the world, sub 20 millisecond latency And while we can solve lots of problems with our public regions, they don't reach everywhere. They don't reach necessarily the middle of the United States or parts of Europe or parts of the Middle East in exactly that latency profile. But what they were able to do with Outpost is take the same game server code, deploy Outposts in 3 or 4 locations in addition to the regions, and then use the same tooling that they have for rolling out their new game services and managing their games in the region, and use those also on the Outpost no matter where they were. This is really exciting, right? And it really kind of proves that we're delivering that same experience to our customer, who is Riot in this case, but we're solving a customer problem, which is the gamers want an equal amount of latency no matter where they live, right? They want a fair experience and a good one. So I think there's a lot of other gaming companies who are going to be in a similar boat. And then there's also other people who are trying to deliver that consistent latency promise. They're going to find Outpost to be a really good fit. This is a really dramatic experience, right? Where I actually saw one customer who didn't even know that we deployed the Outpost, but they were commenting on a public comment thread that Riot must have done something because their latency dropped from 40 milliseconds to 25 milliseconds. So it's a good proof point that we're doing the right thing, and the end user is really seeing the benefit. Another, at kind of the other end of the spectrum here, is Morningstar, which is one of the leading financial services companies. They're looking to modernize an enormous application portfolio, and they think that most of those applications will end up in the public regions eventually. But in the meantime, which could be 3, 5, even 10 years, they're going to use Outposts as a stepping stone to get to that region. They're going to deliver a controlled environment to all of the application owners. They're going to have a set of standards, and they're going to manage the capacity and the access in a more familiar way for people who are used to the data center environment. And so this is kind of a multi-year migration story. So here it's a mix of virtual machines and containerized workflows and a bit of a lift and shift. So they move the applications over relatively quickly. And then some of them are going to modernize. It might take a year. They might move to containers. I mentioned EKS and ECS. They might not move to containers. They might stay on VMs. And at some point, some of those workloads are going to find it better to kind of operate in the cloud once Morningstar is more comfortable there. Some of them might remain on the Outpost for the foreseeable future. So Outpost really offers them kind of the best of both worlds in this case. I mentioned earlier that we've been kind of turning the crank pretty hard on the AWS services, and all the customers that you see right now, they're mostly using AWS services and their own kind of native infrastructure. But a number of them have said to us, look, I've been operating in the on-prem world for a long time, and there's a lot of third-party solutions that I use that are core to my operations. We know that you have some of those offerings on the AWS cloud. You need to bring those to an Outpost if you're going to deliver that promise of making it the same for me to operate no matter where I am. And so, we heard this feedback loud and clear. And in September of this year, we announced the Outpost Ready program, which is from our APN, our Amazon Partner Network. And so what this is it's a certification program where third-party partners, some of which are available in our marketplace, are able to test and certify their solution to operate on the Outposts. So what that, of course, gives you as a customer is the ability to use that same solution on your own customer-owned hardware, on the Outpost, and in the region as well. It's really powerful. And the interest in this has just been phenomenal. We set out to do this, and then in September, we launched with 32 partners. So these are 32 partners that have been through that certification and compliance program. And so, we're guaranteeing that it's going to work for you and that it's going to work in the right way and be supported by the partner. And that the interest from customers has been really high. You see people here in the storage and security and the networking space. It's really all over the spectrum. But the announcement of this program actually generated something that kind of pleasantly surprised me, which is even more interest from the partners who are hearing from their customers, hey, why are you not in this announcement? And so what we're proud to announce today is that now, as of reInvent 2020, we are expanding this program, and we now have an additional 24 partners that are certified. So if you add those two together, that is 56 partners. We're not slowing down. Some of them have multiple solutions, so there are 64 different certified solutions. And you can kind of go to this link, and if you bookmark it, of course, you'll see more and more people showing up. So we have more people in the networking space, security, container operations, NoSQL databases. The list is really broad here, and what it indicates is it's not that we told all these partners they had to do it. It's that their customers said, hey, I want your solution to be something that I use on the Outpost. I need you to get in this program. So we're really excited. We think this is going to be a durable advantage for our customers to be able to use all these certified solutions. And once they standardize on them, it works really everywhere. It's just really fantastic. We've also heard from a number of customers, and you could kind of sense this earlier when I talked about people in the public sector or large enterprise customers in spaces like healthcare and financial services. A lot of people use consulting partners to manage their infrastructure or their technology. And so we've been working with our partners, and we now have over 40 in our APN consulting program here that are certified or have built up a practice around Outpost. So whether that's Deloitte or Slalom, Infosys, the list is really broad here. And these are people that enterprises have said, hey, consulting partner, you got to get on the stick here and certify that you're going to be able to manage our infrastructure on Outposts because, we plan on purchasing one of those from AWS. And so again, if you have a consulting partner that you use to manage your infrastructure and your technology, and you don't see them on this list, it's pretty easy for them to work with our APN team and to get certified. We actually have a lab program that we run them through. And we're really devoted to kind of making this a complete list for all of our customers. So that is a kind of a whirlwind of what we have delivered in the last 12 months, an overview of Outpost, and what our partners can bring to our customers. So, of course, since it's reInvent, it would not be complete without some announcements. And I'm just really excited to talk about this one. I hope most of you watched Andy's keynote, because what he talked about there is probably one of the most exciting things that I feel like I'm involved in right now, which is that we have some new members of the Outpost family. At the top of this presentation, you got a look at the familiar full rack Outpost, right? That's that 42U Outpost that we just roll into your site once we've verified that it's going to fit. You can pack a ton of compute and storage into this. But what we heard from some people is, I love that idea. I love the Outpost. I love the consistent hybrid offering, but I have limited space. Maybe I'm a retail store. Maybe I am a factory that doesn't really have a data center closet. Maybe I am a restaurant, and I want to move to the cloud. I want to modernize my application portfolio. What do you have for me? And so what we have coming in 2021 are new single server Outposts. And this is just, I think, going to be a huge offering for those customers. So these are single server Outposts. They come in two different sizes, 1U and 2U, which are standard sizes for measuring how much of a rack footprint it takes up. 1U is about the size of a pizza box, and 2 units is about the size of 2 pizza boxes stacked on top of each other. And so these are very similar to the full rack Outposts in terms of the same level of security. They're running that same AWS Nitro system, which gives you bare metal performance in a virtualized environment. They're patched and monitored and managed by AWS, and they're going to have some of the same service portfolio on top of them. This is really going to extend the reach of that consistent hybrid offering from AWS to many more locations. Maybe you're a telco provider and you want to put these things kind of at the far edge. Well, now you can do that, right? You can use the full rack Outpost somewhere at a central office, and then use these single server Outposts at the far edge. One other thing I want to mention with these is that they can be bundled together. So people often forget about this. I mentioned it earlier, but you can take the full rack Outposts and you can put 1, 2, 3, up to 96 full rack Outposts can be ganged together, bundled together in a single data center as a single logical outpost. If you have 2 or 3 locations, of course, each of those locations and the bundles of outposts would be separate logical outposts. But of course, we don't want to leave out the people who are purchasing the single server Outposts, you can put 1, 2, up to 6 single server Outposts, and that applies to both the 1U and the 2U Outpost. You can gang those together as a kind of like a single logical unit, which is actually a pretty decent amount of compute. And so, you might only need a single 1U Outpost. In that case, you're going to have our amazing Graviton 2 processors, which just give you just a phenomenal price performance ratio. Or if you're using our 2U Outposts, those come with an Intel processor. And so we also, we offer that same kind of choice we do in our regions. We offer a limited amount of that choice on the Outpost as well. And so collectively here, what you see is that you can do anything now on an Outpost, from a single 1U server all the way up to 96 racks. It's like a full data center of AWS kind of deployed wherever you want it. And so we're really excited about this, and we would love, I keep saying this, but we really would love to hear from you about where you think you're going to be deploying these Outposts, what services you want to see on them. So these are coming in 2021, and there's going to be more info as we have more details to share. So thank you for making it all the way here. I kind of wanted to wrap this up with a little bit of a summary, right? Why do we build Outposts? Well, there's this emerging need for low latency, local data processing, and data residency, right? Workloads that really can't leave a country or a state. Maybe it's even online gaming and online betting, right? These are starting to become legalized. Customers also tell us they want that same experience. They want to use the same tooling. They want to have the same security posture. Even the CFOs tell us they want to get everything in a similar, way to look at things. They want the same bill. They want to get the same discounts. So what do? We have AWS Outposts. We're delivering that fully managed infrastructure, same services, same APIs that you can get elsewhere on AWS. And ultimately what that's going to give you is it's going to simplify your life and business. It's going to do the undifferentiated heavy lifting. We want you to be focused on what's really differentiated for your business, not managing the infrastructure, not figuring out what new form factors you need to deploy, not managing the hypervisor or the fundamental security of the platform itself. You want to be focused on your application portfolio, on modernizing it, on getting the most out of your developers and delivering the most value to your customers. And that's what we're going to give you with Outposts. So again, I really thank you for coming here today. We've also launched a new Twitch series where hopefully every week for the foreseeable future, we're going to do deep dives into how Outposts work, into Outpost networking. We're going to have partners on there, including our colo partners, as to where you can deploy the Outpost, other services. So it's kind of a really exciting opportunity to go deeper than I had the opportunity to do so here today in these 30 minutes. So again, thank you. It really is fantastic to hear from all the customers. You can see my Twitter handle on here. Please feel free to send me a message, and I will take a look at it, and we will get you in touch with the right people. And again, don't forget to fill out your surveys. Thank you very much. Take care.